Yokoso Otakus, it's Dre here today talking about Made in Abyss, the video game, Binary Star, Falling Over Darkness, whatever it's called. I just wanted to talk about my first impressions of it today. So as you guys know, I've played through the anime storyline, I have played through some of the custom storyline. I'm about 5 hours into it now. I haven't beat it, obviously. The game is rough. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now. So if you are looking at throwing $60 down on it, you may find some levels of disappointment with it all. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you're a huge Made in Abyss fan though, there might be some stuff that you do really like about it. So if you're not familiar with the game, there is 2 different game modes. You absolutely have to play the anime storyline first though before you get into the second part, which I think arguably in a lot of ways is a lot better. Basically, first you'll start off playing the anime protagonists, and you'll go and you'll learn about the Abyss, what it is, you'll go into it, you'll kind of see what some of the base mechanics are, and you'll go through the story kind of sort of up until you finish Ozen's training, which is like 10 days that the kids were left in the wilderness essentially, down low. Now, the second part, which I think is much more exciting, is actually where you'll be able to craft your own custom character. The world opens up drastically, the mechanics open up drastically, but listen here, the difficulty also goes totally bonkers. That's saying a lot because the anime part of it wasn't the easiest, but really when you see what comes next, it definitely is way harder. So first off, this game is definitely for people who want challenges, they want brutality, they want difficulty, and at this point in the game, until they get a patch out, also a lot of unfairness. So I guess I have to say save often, but also be careful how you're saving, because it's very easy in this game at this point in time to get yourself stuck in a situation where you literally can't proceed and you can't backtrack. So that kind of brings me off to my first complaint about the game, and this is going to sound like a series of complaints in this video, but I just want to tell you guys my overall feeling of the game is that I do enjoy it. I don't absolutely think that it's worth the $60, but I'm having a lot of fun with the game. I continue to be drawn into it, and I feel like everything's very authentic for what the show is about, which is why you really have to be a fan of the anime to really get the most out of the game, and you're gonna have to be able to let a lot of things go. So my first complaint is that when you move from area to area, you have to enter these portals. They negate a level of stamina and a level of your health from you, and it's different from area to area. So in order to proceed or to leave out of an area, you actually have to have enough stamina and have enough health. So if you're getting really messed up and you're trying to eke your way out, you'll just hit a wall. You won't even be able to go back. And a lot of times this kind of ends up in these zero-sum situations. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Can't go forward, can't go back. Honestly, it's something I think that they really do need to address with this game. I hope that they do. I really hope that they do. You know, I made kind of a quirky tweet to Spike Chunsoft recently on Twitter to see, you know, if they were gonna get a patch out for us at any time, if that was a plan or not. I don't know how confident I am that they will. I'm really hoping that they do, but I don't know. In my opinion, in my experience rather, I haven't had a lot of patches come through from Spike Chunsoft games, but maybe you guys know something I don't know, and if you do, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. So another thing about the game is your resource management is definitely a really huge part of the game. You are having to survive, and there is many different elements that you're competing with, one of which is your hunger and your stamina levels. Now, naturally, you lose stamina by going from area to area, but you also lose stamina by doing various different things, or just literally for existing, period. I think that it's a great idea. I think that it works really well, especially for the challenges and, you know, how rough the Abyss is in the show, and then you're experiencing that in the game. I think that's wonderful. However, again, with the food, there's just a lot of times where you can't do a whole lot, and it was really funny in the main story, and I don't know if this happened with anybody else, but Playing through the main game, I actually ended up hitting a situation where the only way I could proceed was if I had enough stamina to climb up this side wall that I had to climb up, and I was really close to the next checkpoint. But the only way I could do it was if I had enough stamina, and I didn't have anything to make. I had got a lot of meat and stuff like that, but I needed salt. And salt, I did not know, is not really a natural resource that you can find within the world. It's something that you have to purchase before you go down. I guess there is a overall lesson to be learned to prepare before you go into the abyss and make sure that you have all your supplies, but sometimes it just almost feels unfair in the way that you can't plan for every single scenario, and it seems like you just get stuck in scenarios that you shouldn't. Literally, the only way that I could actually complete the main story was to cheese it. So there's birds and they drop eggs, and if I can get 2 eggs, I can make 1 egg dish, which will just make just the smallest little bit of stamina back for me. And the birds, while they drop eggs, they don't always drop eggs, and there's only a finite amount of birds, which is kind of funny based off something we're going to talk about later. But in this specific scenario, the birds were not respawning. They were set, and I could only destroy so many of them. They would only drop so much eggs. Sometimes they would drop bird meat. Bird meat required salt, so I needed eggs and only eggs. And the only way that I could actually complete this challenge was if most of them dropped eggs, which just RNG wise wasn't really a possible thing that was going to happen. And so I ended up just having to die over and over and over and over again until I got everything lined up just perfect to get the eggs that I needed to complete the test. Once I climbed up the wall though, things didn't look a whole lot better. I again needed to repeat just what I said before to get to the next area, because there was a checkpoint. There was a check gate, like to move from one area to another area. I needed a certain amount of stamina, which I didn't have. In fact, I think I was like too short from it. It was really frustrating. Or hunger level, I might be misusing the word stamina. I think stamina is the blue bar and your red bar is your hunger meter. So I'm talking about hunger for all of this. I didn't have enough hunger to pass through the gate. So again, I had to die until I could get both of the birds, because I think in that specific area there's only 2. I had to die enough that they both dropped an egg so I could make 1 single egg dish, and I had to do it quickly enough that I didn't lose enough stamina in order to make to that checkpoint. Eventually I did, and eventually I completed that task, but that was something that I just didn't feel like I should have had to deal with. Had I not decided to do that, the only other way I could have possibly redone that was to load the save again to a hard save that I did and not a auto save, and go way back in the game, and literally probably half of the time that I had spent playing it. And the whole storyline takes about 4 hours, so probably about 2 hours of progress would have been lost, and I would have had to go all the way back through it again, which definitely is not something that I think was a really big highlight for this game, and could be something else that other people would experience. Now, from what I'm understanding, there's some people that apparently are a lot more savvy than me. They're understanding this better and quicker than me, so this might just be a me being dumb situation, but I do feel like people are encountering some of these issues. So later, once you beat the main story, you get to create a character, and the character creation's fine. It looks nice and everything, but when you complete your character and you start into the game, everything gets a lot more freeform. You get more shops, you get more items, you get way more crafting, you get a skill level tree that you can go through and make your ranks by selling relics and completing quests, and you can kind of go through the abyss and go deep down into it. And as I understand, you can go all the way to the 5th layer. Now, my 5 hours into it, I really haven't gotten past the 1st layer yet. It's a very sloggy game. It's a game that you cannot push down really quickly with. And a lot of the gameplay that I've been showing off during this video, actually I was cheating on, because I just wanted to get a bunch of footage out as much as I can and make a lot of progress to get stuff to show. And even then, it was still taking me a really long time to do anything, and there's a lot of different reasons behind that. Even if you didn't have to worry about food and health so much, it's just kind of a slog of a journey to navigate the world and manage your resources. So I had learned a little bit from the main story scenario, and I went into the custom scenario. And I apologize, I don't actually remember the names of them. They have definitive names, I don't remember them. But I made it into this world, and I was exploring down it, and I was taking my time. I was being nice and slow. But I was running into an issue that seemed to be really hit or miss, and it has to do with the AI. And there's actually two different types of AI which are completely broken. The first of which, though, is the enemy AI. You'll encounter like some really crazy stuff, like so just really big, like giant beasts. They're fine. They're totally fine. They show up in certain areas, you kill them. You don't really see them again unless you leave the area for a long period of time and you come back into it. You might see them having respawn, and you have to go kind of through that challenge again. Most of them really aren't too bad, especially once you learn the emergency dodge skill and you can kind of just jump out of the way and hit them. It's really rinse or repeaty in that way. For some of the smaller enemies, they can get absolutely off the rails, and it seems to just happen completely at random. I don't know if it's some sort of coding error or what it is, but you're going to encounter a lot of squirrels at the beginning of the game, and sometimes it feels like they just infinitely spawn. You kill two and you're sitting there trying to eat some food or something, and two more are right on top of you. And I've even had it where I've been fighting one, and then all of a sudden there's like three of them around me, and then I kill those three, and then two more pop up, and it's just constant. And then your weapons only have so much durability to them, so they do break down over time, and it really is fast. It's very, very fast. One of the big things that helped me out a lot was separating my pickaxe, which can be used for a weapon or also to mine, and getting a hatchet, which is just for fighting, and using the hatchet as much as possible so that I'd always have the pickaxe. Because if you break your pickaxe and you don't have enough rock or to make another one, then you won't be able to make an item, or you won't be able to mine, and if you can't mine, you can't get rock, and you can't make more tools, and so you end up in that zero-sum situation that I was talking about before. It literally becomes impossible to progress or degress or egress from where you're at. The second type of AI that I had a huge amount of problems with was the NPCs that follow you around, your partners. So you play as Rico in the anime storyline, and you have your little robot boy with you, Reg, and he's supposed to be helping you and assisting you in your little adventures, but the problem is he literally just constantly gets stuck on things, whether it's just a large tree root or behind a wall some way, and you just have to sit there and listen to these clacking sounds that just keep clacking away while he's sitting there doing nothing, and he's totally stuck like that until you can push far enough away from him that the game will just teleport him at you, and then he's back on his adventures again. The other thing about him is that all the NPCs in the game that help you out, you have other ones later in the other storyline as well, and they are just hyper aggressive all the time. They're just constantly getting into fights. Anything that's anywhere near them at all, unless you're doing your sneaking, they are just wailing away, getting into fights, and they are not spongy at all. They have very low HP, and they're just dying, and you're listening to them yell and scream while you're trying to do something totally different. It's very frustrating to me. They don't feel like they're of no help whatsoever, and really just almost feels like they're a hindrance or just something to be completely ignored even. Both of those things, though, I think definitely could get fixed with a patch, though. I think if they just did a patch, they could really get the workaround for that one, and also the food management and stuff like that, too. I feel like there is something that could be done about them, and I really, really, really hope that we do see that patch. I've been talking about that a lot, and God, I cannot wait for it. I've seen some reports of people falling through the world. Honestly, I've never had that happen to me at all. Everything was kind of fine as far as like physics and stuff went. It was just mostly AI pathfinding that was problematic, but I didn't have any of those horrible cataclysmic events where people just like fell through the world and died. I had more problems falling off cliffs and dying, because I definitely did that a lot. Going back to the climbing mechanic can get kind of frustrating for a couple different reasons as well. First off, you encounter the rock clusters that you can mine sporadically as you're climbing, and sometimes you'll have like one of two issues with that. One is that it doesn't always seem to detect the rock very well, and I found myself trying to readjust my character over and over and over again until the queue came up just right to let me mine. The other thing that happens, and this can be an advantage or a disadvantage, in my opinion, I personally think it's kind of more of a disadvantage, but your character can actually stand on the rocks. So if you lower yourself down on top of one of the rock clusters, you'll stand on it. And I guess you could kind of cheese it a little bit to get your stamina boosted up, but to me it's too dangerous. It's like sometimes you can kind of just, physics will just like push you off the rock and you can fall, and if you fall, you're pretty much gonna die. Unless you're just barely over the ground, but you're almost always gonna die. And so I thought that both of those things were kind of frustrating a little bit, but I mean, those are pretty minor compared to the other complaints that I talked about earlier. Finally, I'll kind of talk about my experience with traveling through the world. So I've made the reference before saying that it's a slog. It's very slow, kind of arduous journey. The thing is there is fast travel in the game, but I just haven't been able to figure out how it works. I don't know if you have to go beyond being a red whistle, because I haven't gotten to the next stage yet in my game. I've gotten all the skill mastery for it, but I think I have to do something else in order to become a higher level and unlock more skills. But I can't fast travel at all within the world, so that means every time you go into the abyss, you're going through every single floor over and over and over and over again, and I actually heard a lot of other people complain about that, and it is very much a thing in this game. There's kind of some ups and downs to it. I think there's an argument to be made that the more times you go, you kind of understand where things are spawning and how to manage your inventory, what to expect, right? How many ropes you'll need, maybe places where you thought you needed a rope, but you found later that you can climb in a different area and avoid using your resources for a rope in that area. Things like that. There's definitely a learning that you can get from it all, but it's also just kind of extra tedious. I think the challenges in each of the areas are pretty good as it is. Once you have to do those again, it's not really all that fun to just keep repeating it over and over and over again, and you know, your proficiency is getting better every time you do it, but it's just one of those things that just becomes monotonous, and it almost feels like time filler, really, when you think about it. So that's enough about me complaining about the game. Let's talk about what I like about the game, because I did find quite a bit. Obviously, I've told you I've come back to this game multiple times. There's a soul within the game that I think just really, if everything was kind of cleaned up a little bit around it, it would be a really good experience. Maybe not the best experience or the highest level experience, but it would be a good experience for many people, especially huge fans of Made in Abyss. So the first thing that I really like is the atmosphere. I thought they did really good. It feels like you're in that universe, and things are challenging and things are scary. My hands were sweating on my controller so much from climbing on these cliffs and trying to manage my stamina and hope that I don't fall, or hope that something didn't happen that I couldn't take. Honestly, it was pretty good. It kept me like tense, but it never really pushed me over the edge, but it was engaging to me, and I really enjoy the experience of that despite its flaws. The Abyss itself, it looks really good. I know there's a lot of complaints about the graphics of the game, and especially the pairing of stuff. Like, obviously the character models look like they're ripped perfectly from the anime, and everything else in the world outside of models of creatures and characters kind of looks like it belongs in maybe like a lower budget like indie game that somehow had a lot of really cleaned up textures. But overall, it felt really good. I mean, you're climbing on cliffs, you're doing the things that you would expect to be doing, and you're encountering the things you'd expect to be encountering outside all the bugs. It feels good. It's a good feeling game, and it's exciting to me as someone who likes the Made in Abyss anime a lot and has watched it multiple times in the movies and stuff like that. It's a good experience as far as the feel of it goes. I like that there's a lot of items to craft. There's a lot of foods to craft. In fact, there's a very large amount of food to craft and more foods to unlock, and I thought that they all kind of fit within the universe really well. They look appealing, and the stats are very helpful when you can make them. Sometimes sourcing ingredients is a little difficult because a lot of the dishes require things that you buy and not things that you can find. I wish there was some more scavenging, but anyway, we're talking about the positives, and I do like the wide variety of foods that are available, and the pictures for them are fantastic too, and it's just kind of a fun thing to unlock. There's even a character that lives in a place called the Caravan, and that character asks you on occasion to try new food dishes, and she kind of talks about them and stuff, and I think there's a little bit of world building that kind of plays in with food at a very light level, but it is there, and I do appreciate it. I like the weapon variety too. There's not a huge variety of weapons, but they did have some stuff that I wasn't expecting. They have a little gun, and you can craft bullets. I haven't been able to use it yet, but I have seen it, and I think that it's actually kind of a cool little idea that they have in the game. It's obviously not the easiest thing to make, but I think once you can start crafting it, it can be really, really helpful. Up until that point, the easier ranged weapon to craft is the trusty bow and arrow, and you can make a couple different types of poison arrows from ingredients that are really readily available within the Abyss, and I think that's just really fantastic that they did that. I do really enjoy that a lot. They also have some clothing options. I haven't unlocked really anything yet because I think you have to go beyond the red whistle, so you have to put quite a bit of time into the game before you unlock stuff, but there is more of a variety of equipment and items and stuff that you can get within the game, and I think that's also just kind of an exciting thing, though something that's absolutely very expected as a base mechanic in a game like this. I like the voice acting a lot. They have a full robust voice acting roster, which I thought was great. It seems to be taken straight out of the anime. I haven't done any confirmation to see whether they are the same voice actors or if they just use lines from the shows and the movies and stuff, but it all sounds really great and it pairs with the characters. I really do appreciate it. They even have a lot of the side quests and stuff that are fully fleshed out as far as voice lines, and that was also appreciated. I know we don't always get English with these kind of games, so it was absolutely appreciated not only to have the full English text, but also English voiceover and quality English voiceover. I found no issues with it, actually. It's one of the better voiceovers in a game that I've seen in quite a while. I feel like I've made this video really long as it is. I don't want to keep it too long, but those are just kind of my first initial thoughts with the game. Obviously, I haven't beat it yet, but really the end takeaway point that I want to tell everyone is that, for one, this game is brutally hard. It's not an easy game. There is no options to make things easier at all. It's either you play it raw like it is, or I guess you get some cheat codes. I don't really completely suggest cheat codes. I feel like there's a level of difficulty to the game that brings the experience. The difficulty is the experience, which is not normal for me to say, but in this very particular case, it is the experience. I don't think that they need to do a whole lot of adjusting with stuff. It might be nice if they added in some extra features, you know, where you could dial down your stamina usage, or things like the Curse of the Abyss, which you get from gaining elevation. You could pad that down a little bit so it didn't attack you when you've went like 3 meters up higher than normal. Little things like that, but I don't think that they need a big overall change to things. I think having the enemies be hard and tough to you, I'll bet not have them spawn as much. I think they're fine. They work great as they are, and the challenge is definitely there, and it's good stuff. So you definitely want to be prepared for a challenge and a lot of kind of thinking and planning ahead, and understanding that there is times where you're gonna get wiped out. You're gonna have to redo stuff. You're gonna have to go back in time a little bit. That's just how this game kind of operates. It's almost a roguelike feeling in that way. You learn a little bit and you get a little bit farther next time. The other thing I want to say is it's really buggy. I played it on the PC, and as I spoke before, and I tried not to go too crazy about the complaints, but there's definitely a lot of stuff that could be patched out and cleaned up. And I think on the plus side of all of this, I think that most of the biggest problems with this game could be addressed in patches if they decided to do so. I think they could really clean this game up, and it would be a really great experience, instead of just something that, you know, a lot of people are going to have a lot of problems with. Despite all that, and despite all the negative things people have been saying, I've been enjoying it myself. There's been a bunch of people who've come in on our live streams and checked it out that have also been telling me that they're really enjoying it. Some of them have even gotten really far. I think one person I talked to was on the 4th layer, heading into the 5th at that time. And, you know, there is an experience to be had. You can enjoy this game. However, like I said before, unless you just desperately need to jump into this world and try this out, you may want to wait until there's either a robust patch that happens in the game, or the price goes down a little bit, and you can check it out yourself. I'm Dre with Yokuso Otaku. If you guys like this content, hit the thumbs up. If you don't, smash it down. I don't care. Do what you do. If you want to see more anime news, reviews, and gaming, subscribe to Yokuso Otaku. We got plenty more coming your way. I'll catch you on the next one.